Shut up and sit down.
What is up, wrestling fans? It has been a long time since you've seen me. Not that long since you've heard me, although the podcast is currently kind of in between episodes. We'll work on getting some content out to you. But unfortunately, we are we didn't have a live to tape episode this week, so I am coming to you to talk some wrestling and to, have my video freeze, because that's always fun. But I'm coming to you to talk some wrestling and to give you my thoughts on Full Gear, as well as to talk about, just in general, my picks and things of that nature. So, saddle in. And get ready to talk some wrestling. So, let's start. Before we get to Full Gear, there is some business that we need to discuss in terms of the recent talent layoffs with WWE. In case you're living under a rock, you may have heard that WWE has laid off some massive talent in the last couple of weeks. Up to and including Ember Moon, Karrion Kross, Scarlett, Mia Yim, Keith Lee, Oni Lorcan, among others. Now, it's a big deal because most of these are talents that came from NXT and hit the main roster with a lot of buzz, but then kind of snuffed out because of bad booking, because of bad pushes, because of whatever. We've talked at length about Keith Lee and Karrion Kross. I don't feel the need to go into them more. I really malign Ember Moon's usage on the main roster and her second NXT run. I think that they really could have gotten more out of her. She's one that I really hope jumps to AEW, because she could take their women's division from being good to being great. So I definitely think that she's going to pop up. Keith Lee is one that I'm excited for, because I think that he is going to show the company what they missed out on. I think that he's going to show off and show out, and I think that he's going to be just something really, really special, and they're going to be kicking themselves that they missed out on him. I would assume he ends up in AEW, although you never know. But with his talent, I definitely assume that he's going to be AEW bound. Karrion Kross and Scarlett are interesting, because the buzz is that Mexico is very interested in those two. And obviously Impact is something that they know, and that's where they came from, that's where they cut their teeth. I would love to see the Killer Smoke Show back in Impact. I think that they would make a lot of sense there. And then, if there's room in a year or two after really kind of reestablishing themselves, sure, bring them over to AEW. But right now, AEW has a bevy of talent, and it's only going to be getting deeper. We're talking potentially Bray Wyatt, potentially Kevin Owens when his contract is up, potentially Kyle O'Reilly when his contract is up, Johnny Gargano. All three of those people have their contracts coming up in the next 3 weeks. No, the next 3 months, excuse me. December and January. So, I think that it's going to be really exciting for AEW from now until Revolution. I think the Revolution show is going to be packed. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's going to be what we talked about before, which is how can they handle the talent. I'm going to throw up a real quick poll here. Will Killer Kross go to AEW? And we'll see what you guys think. If you guys think that that's going to be happening or not. Again, I would love to see it. I would love to see it happen. And but I think right now they need to focus on getting back to what they were before they hit the main roster. So that being said, you know, we're living in a television contract day where they have 90-day no-compete clauses, although Kross and Keith Lee may only have 30-day compete clauses, so they could pop up a lot quicker than, say, Kevin Owens could. So we'll see, you know, where that leaves us. But suffice to say, I think that AEW is going to be getting a lot more talent here in the short term. Now, speaking of AEW, again, if you have been living under a rock, tomorrow night is AEW Full Gear, live from Minnesota. It was originally scheduled for St. Louis. They moved it. I'm not quite sure why they moved it, but they did move it. I know they moved the date so as not to coincide with the UFC event, which was smart because the UFC event last week was fantastic. Tony Khan's a pretty smart guy. Sometimes he talks too much, but I think, you know, every promoter does. So, you know, sometimes he gets a bit high on his own supply, but that's okay because he's got a great product right now. But as far as like his business decisions and everything, he's a super smart guy. So in Tony Khan, we trust. He's given us an awesome card for tomorrow. I'm super stoked for it. Well, what the hell? I'll just get right into picks here. So on the pre-show, they have Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. That is coming because, of course, they are opponents coming up in the TBS tournament. I believe Nyla's facing Shida and Thunder Rosa's facing Hayter, I think. So that's, you know, their involvement on the pay-per-view. I would have loved to have seen a TBS tournament match on the pay-per-view, but this is good too. One big omission is Ruby Soho. I would have loved to have seen Ruby Soho make the card. I think it's a disservice that she's not, but hey, these things happen. Fixing my light. So, no big deal. I have Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa going over, and I have a 4-point on them. By the way, as I go through my picks, you may be thinking, what's he doing? What are these points he keeps talking about? If you're interested, go over to the Pittsburgh Piledriver Podcast main page on Facebook. Just search for Pittsburgh Piledriver Podcast. You'll find us. And you can participate in what's called the hashtag Cruiserweight Open, where you can vie for the Cruiserweight title, which is our picks title that we defend between ourselves and now the fans. Currently being held by one of us, Ransom, as well as one of our fans, Dave Parrish, a.k.a. Chaos Gesture, a.k.a. Bob Gray, a.k.a. So if you want to get in on the action, get in on the picks, jump on over to our page. I have a post up. Just reply there with your picks and assign a point value to each match, 1 through 10. You can only use each number once. And get them in by tomorrow at noon. Again, the cutoff is tomorrow at noon. So that's the Cruiserweight Open. Moving on to the main show. I'm going to go out of order here in the matches, just because I just have a weird order to them. I'll start with the Inner Circle versus American Top Team. For those of you who aren't aware, American Top Team is a UFC training dojo. I think they call them dojos. It's a training group headed up by Dan Lambert, and with such successful success stories as Andrei Arlovsky, former UFC, I believe, heavyweight champion, Junior Dos Santos, Paige Van Zandt, who's becoming more popular because of her Instagram, not because of her mixed martial arts, but I digress. This is to me, this is a big deal because this is Tony Khan being in bed with UFC, which is something that Vince McMahon has been trying to do for years and never has accomplished. This is Tony Khan, not there's no agreement in place. There's not like they're friendly, but obviously Tony Khan is a fan of Dana White, and I'd like to think vice versa, that Dana White is also a fan of Tony Khan. At least I hope so, because that'd be cool. But this is two worlds merging. Obviously, with America's Top Team, you're also getting the Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. Glad to see a spotlight on them. But the match itself is the Inner Circle, which is Chris Jericho's stable, which is Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, the current TNT champion, as well as Santana and Ortiz, versus the Men of the Year, again, Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, and American Top Team, which is Junior Dos Santos, Andrei Arlovsky, and Dan Lambert, who's the coach. And obviously, whenever they decided that he was going to be part of the team, he threw a fit. Listen, Dan Lambert is an awesome heel. For a guy who's not a wrestling guy, who's an MMA guy, Dan Lambert's done an incredible job. He's done an incredible job feeding Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle, and he's done a great job of being a really good guy who you want to see get punched in the face. Well, guess what? Tomorrow night in the Minnesota Street Fight, he's going to get punched in the face. That's what you do. That's Wrestling 101. You have a guy like Bobby Heenan who you build up, and you're like, man, I can't wait to see him get punched in the face. And then the payoff is seeing them getting punched in the face. That's going to be Dan Lambert tomorrow. I'm fairly certain that the Inner Circle goes over here. I'm not 100% certain, obviously, because anything could change, but I like the Inner Circle here because, again, I think Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page beat Jericho and I think Hager, I'm not sure, at a previous event. So they had their day in the sun. I think that the Inner Circle will get the victory here, and I think that everybody's on to something new. I'd love to see Dan Lambert stick around, depending on how Arlovsky and Junior Dos Santos do. I think that would be cool too. But I'd love to see Lambert stick around to be like the mouthpiece for the Men of the Year. But I think that the Inner Circle win, and I'm putting 6 points on that. That's my 6-point match. Moving on to the Pillars of AEW match, we have Maxwell Jacob Friedman, a.k.a. MJF, versus Darby Allin. It's been a great build-up. Low and slow, man. That's a good simmer matchup. They had Max. They had the Pinnacle attack Darby and Sting as like a masked vigilantes who rolled up in a limo. They did that whole thing. Great mic work by Max. And admirable mic work by Darby. Darby's hanging, man. Darby can hang with the Punks and with the MJF. So that's what you want to see. That's what you want to see from your young guys. Them exhibiting that they can hang on the mic and get better. So MJF has referred to these two of the 4 pillars of AEW. As has been described, basically the 4 young guys who are going to help drive AEW to success. Those two, Jungle Boy and Sammy Guevara, which I agree with. It's a smart play to bring that up. I like MJF here. I don't think the story is done, but I like MJF. I think he's going to go over. I think it's not a sure thing. Excuse me. It's not a sure thing. So I'm only going to put 2 points on it. But I think MJF goes over, at least at this point. Moving on to a really exciting feud that's just kind of come up here in the last couple of weeks. CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston. I think that... So obviously Jon Moxley is getting some help for some stuff he's got going on, which is great, man. I love that AEW is being so supportive. I love that Tony Khan's being so supportive. And I love that Mox is getting help, especially with that little girl at home and Renee. Like, this is good for him. So I think that he had a spot on the pay-per-view, and obviously, and I think that things kind of revolved around that. But now, since he's no longer around, or at least around for the time being, things have kind of circled into a tailspin in his immediate vortex, leaving Eddie Kingston out in the cold. I love... So when they first put this match together, I wasn't a fan. I thought it was too kind of slapdash. I thought it was very ham-fisted. And they're like, oh, hey, by the way, we're getting CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston. So I wasn't a big fan. But then, I think the following week, they had a really great promo. A lot of people calling it the promo of the year, which in November is a pretty big deal between the two of them. And it was really good. Tony Schiavone said that he had people ask him if it was a shoot promo. And that's how you know it was good. If people are asking if it's a shoot promo and it's a worked promo, that's how you know it's good. So they had a really great promo on Rampage. I think it was Rampage last week or 2 weeks ago. Regardless, it was fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It really ignited the feud, and now they've been at each other's throats, the last week and a half or so. A lot of fire, a lot of heat coming into this one. Bottom line is, I think that CM Punk wins. CM Punk's going to lose. I promise you. CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are both going to lose at some point. It's not going to be this night. Because I think that they both have bigger and better dragons, no pun intended, to slay. And they can both do a lot better with their first loss. I'd love to see Eddie Kingston beat Punk. I think that'd be awesome. And I think that'd be a huge push for Eddie Kingston. But I don't think it's going to happen. So I am picking Punk here, and that's a fairly sure thing, so much so that I'm giving it my 10 spot. That's my 10-point pick. That is your Beef's Lock of the Week, Punk over Eddie Kingston at Full Gear. Moving right along, we have the Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express versus the Super Click, Adam Cole, Bebe, and the Young Bucks. So when Christian came back, I said, okay, what do you got for me? Thinking that, and he was, he got his title shot against Kenny Omega pretty quick, and I'm like, alright, here we go. And realistically, he got his shot, and he lost, and now he's gone. Out of the main event picture, and now he's helping out the young talent in Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. Cool. I'm here for that. And then on the other side, you got the new arrival, Adam Cole, Bebe, and tag teaming with his best friends, the Young Bucks. They have a storied history, and yeah, that is going to be a killer match because I love all of the talent included in it. I believe it's going to be, so it's a Falls Count Anywhere 6-man tag team match. So they're kind of going a little bit heavy on the street fight and thing, but I dig it. I'm here for it, and I would love to see. Oh, thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. I was gonna break out my AEW background, but I just wanted to get this up. So thanks, man. Appreciate it. So yeah. Oh, my pick, right? So I am in this match. I am taking the Super Click with a 3 spot. So I'm taking Adam Cole and the Young Bucks versus in this match with 3 points. Wouldn't surprise me to see Luchasaurus take the fall. Yeah, wouldn't shock me. Right along, Pac and Cody versus Malachi Black and Andrade El Idolo. This is kind of a weird match. First off, let me say this. Malachi Black talked about the House of Black, and you need people to fill a house. All of a sudden, he starts sort of being with Andrade, and then on Dynamite, FTR show up as part of it. FTR is also part of the Pinnacle. So at some point, I think that this is going to come to a head with the Pinnacle and the House of Black, assuming that's what it's called. But so I like that foursome. I really like Malachi Black, Andrade El Idolo, and FTR, and especially because there are 4 cast-offs from WWE who I think they absolutely missed the boat on all of them. I think that they're 4 really good wrestlers, so I would love to see them paired up. First of all, that's great. But here we go again. Cody Rhodes. I don't want to be negative about Cody because I like Cody. I do. I think he's done a lot in this industry. I think he's really good in the ring, and I think he's very good in the mic. He's the son of a plumber. Like he's got the Dusty Rhodes blood in him. So of course he's good on the mic. There's no question about that. But I think, and I mean the audience echoes my sentiment, or our sentiment on the podcast, that he really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way during his TNT title runs. Yes, he got squashed by Brody, which was the right call, and yes, he lost to Darby, which again was the right call. But he still, I don't know. I will forever think, who decided that Cody should win this match? Was it Cody or TK? TK says, I make the decisions. Tony Khan says, I'm the guy who makes the decisions. Don't blame Cody. I don't buy that for a fucking second. I think that if Cody Rhodes doesn't want to lose, Cody Rhodes isn't going to lose. So, yeah, I guess that's all secondary. That's all politics, and that's how politics work. I get it. But that being said, I believe that Cody will win this match, and I think that Pac and Cody are going to win the match. I think Andrade's probably going to eat the pin because it doesn't make sense for Black to eat the pin just yet. Andrade's kind of milling around. I wouldn't say that he's had as big of a push as Malachi Black has. So I think that you got to keep Malachi Black strong, and you got to have Andrade lose the match, probably to Pac, which would make sense. I expect a pretty good match here, obviously with the contestants involved. I'm putting my 5 points on that, by the way. That's my 5-pointer, which means I'm confident, but not super confident, because again, it's Cody, and you never know with Cody. The finals of the Eliminator, number one contender Eliminator, I don't know all their fancy words with it, but the number one contender tournament, which I love that AEW does the number one contendership tournaments. I think that that's a really great callback, and is super duper. So we have Bryan Danielson facing off against Miro. So this was supposed to be Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. And that goes back to my point before about Moxley getting some help. Good for him. Good on him to put himself above the business, and that's fine. Miro is a perfect replacement. I think it makes a lot of sense. A lot of people thought it should have been Punk, but I think that they're really saving Punk and Danielson for something very, very special coming up. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's forthcoming. because Tony Khan knows the value of Bryan Danielson, knows the value of CM Punk. He's going to keep them away until it behooves the company. So you get Bryan Danielson versus Miro here. Two guys who are absolutely criminally misused by WWE, showing that they're, one or two of them is going to be challenging for the heavyweight title next. So, as I alluded to before, I think that Punk and Danielson are both going to lose at some point, but it's not going to be yet. Not at Full Gear. There's still too much to be done with those two. So I like Danielson here. I am going to put... I'm fairly confident on Danielson with 8 points. I feel like, though, if there's a match that's going to get shifty at the end, it's probably going to be this one. I wouldn't shock me to see Lana come out, CJ Perry, as she's probably going to be known, because Miro's been referencing her quite a bit. Wouldn't shock me to see the Elite come out to mess with with Bryan Danielson. So I think Danielson wins. He should win, but we'll see. But nonetheless, I am putting the 8 points on Danielson, so it's kind of my ride or die here. Moving into the title matches, we have Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD versus Tay Conti. Man, Tay Conti's on a roll. She looks great. She's a total package. She's decent on the mic, but she's really good in the ring. She's a great package. I like Tay Conti a lot. And she's another one that was in the clutches of actually Triple H before she left. She didn't even get to the main roster. But, she's another... And I mean, Marks will say, oh, this pay-per-view is all WWE, ex-WWE wrestlers, whatever, man. Whatever. And WWE was made up of a lot of ex-WCW guys, too. So, I mean, I could play that game, too. At the end of the day, we can't be holding these wrestlers to what they were before. We have to accept them for what they are now. And right now, Tay Conti's pretty good. But Britt Baker is on another level. She is a great heel, but she's a heel that you love to cheer for, much like her boyfriend Adam Cole, baby. She's very good in the ring, very good in the mic. She's very deliberate with what she does. Right now, she's carrying this women's division on her back. So, I look for that to continue. I think that Britt Baker, again, is going to lose at some point, but not tonight. Not tomorrow night. So, I'm taking Britt Baker for 9 points to continue to be the champion. Moving right along, we have the Lucha Bros, which is Penta El Zero Miedo and Rey Fenix versus FTR. By the way, ladies and gents, FTR is probably my favorite tag team of the modern era. I love FTR. FTR is just an incredible tag team. They're a throwback to guys like the Brainbusters and Demolition. They're big, they're tough, for as talented as, the Sydals and the Young Bucks are with flips, and the Lucha Brothers with how their aerial their offense is. FTR is just as good with grappling and mat power moves. So I love this matchup. It's a great matchup. I wish I could sit here and tell you that I think that FTR is going to win, but I'm not going to do it. I love what's coming with FTR because, again, they've been very pally-pally with Andrade and with Malachi Black, even though they're members of the Pinnacle. So, at some point, push is going to come to shove. But right now, I'm really digging what FTR is doing. They're, again, I think the best tag team in the world right now. So I am taking, though, the Lucha Brothers, because they just won those titles. You got to give them a decent reign. So I'm taking the Lucha Brothers 7 points, and still. Leading up to the main event, a rematch from last year. My historian friends, Full Gear last year, the number one contender tournament was finished up by Kenny Omega beating Hangman Page en route to Kenny Omega beating Jon Moxley at Winter is Coming, their live event in December of last year. So Kenny Omega's had that belt for almost a year, has been the most dominant champion in AEW history, I think. Jericho was good. I liked Moxley's reign, but I think Kenny Omega has been the best champion. I think the most divisive champion too. All the marks are saying, "Oh well, if Don Callis wasn't there, and if the Young Bucks weren't there, and if the Good Brothers weren't there, la, 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 la." Well, they were, and like my dad used to say, you know why they were there? Because it was in the script. So quit being a fucking mark and appreciate the greatest wrestler on the planet, Kenny Omega. But that being said, I think he loses tomorrow night. all that puffery, because it's time, man. Hangman Page was on the roll of a lifetime leading up to All Out, and then he had the birth of his child, which is fine. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that All Out was more important than the birth of his child. Obviously, All Out had a ton of other good stuff too. CM Punk's return, the surprise of Adam Cole, baby, and Bryan Danielson, Ruby Soho. All that was packed. So, Hangman Page winning it All Out probably would have gotten lost in the shuffle. Hangman Page winning at Full Gear, a little different story. It's time for the Hangman to win, and let him see what he can do with this company. I really thought that he'd be the first champion. So for him being the fourth champion, it's not the worst thing in the world. So yeah, bet on the Cowboy, man. But I am very uncertain of this, and here's why. This is 1 point. I'm putting 1 point on Hangman Page because I believe that. So Danielson. I think Danielson's first match on Dynamite was against Kenny Omega, and they went to that time limit draw. The incredible match. It was great. It was awesome. That screams unfinished business. I don't think that the front office or that Danielson believe that he should be the guy to end Omega's reign. But the fact that they have that little nutshell in there leads me to believe that there's something. That's the only thing that gives me pause. But I think it's Hangman's time. I think you gotta let him roll with it. Wouldn't surprise me if we see Kenny get it back at some point. Wouldn't surprise me if we see Kenny get it back quickly. But I really like the Hangman here tomorrow night for 1 point. So again, going through my picks real quick. I'm taking Shida and Rosa for 4 points. Inner Circle for 6 points. MJF for 2 points. CM Punk for 10. Super Click for 3 points. Pac and Cody for 5. Bryan Danielson for 8 points. Britt Baker for 9 points. The Lucha Bros for 7 points. And Hangman Page for 1 point. Those are my picks for Full Gear. Again, if you want to get in on it, get in on the hashtag Cruiserweight Open. Head on over to the Pittsburgh Piledriver podcast page on Facebook. There's a post about it. Reply to the post with your picks by tomorrow. That's Saturday at noon. And you could be in the fracas, just like you saw me do there. Give me your picks. Give us your point values. Whoever's got the most points at the end of November wins, which means we have Survivor Series coming up next weekend as well. So we're gonna do that next week too. So I'm excited for tomorrow night. The looming question is, what happens with Bray Wyatt? Bray Wyatt's 90-day was up around November 1st, which tells me, so I should be saying Wyndham Rotunda. Wyndham Rotunda's 90-day was up on November the 1st, which tells me, and there have been a couple Impacts, big shows between then and now, so the fact that he didn't debut on Impact by now gives me an inkling that we're going to see the Cult of Wyndham tomorrow, or whatever he wants to call it, and I'm fucking here for it, man. Honestly, it's been too fucking long since I've seen Wyndham Rotunda on television. He is so amazing. God. And I, if we don't get Wyndham Rotunda tomorrow night, that's okay. It's not going to ruin the pay-per-view for me. I'm not sitting here putting all of my expectations on that match. I would love, actually, Tiger Mom Tom makes a great point in the chat. Maybe Wyndham Rotunda joins the House of Black. Yes, that'd be really cool, but I don't think that Wyndham would want to ride on the coattails of Black or vice versa. I see Wyndham coming in and taking over the Dark Order and making it like a villainous faction again, stopping all the bullshit comedy with Johnny Hungy and Colt Cabana and that. I see Wyndham Rotunda coming in and grabbing hold of the Dark Order and being like, what the fuck you guys doing? Like, a year and a half ago, you guys were the most respected, faction out there whenever Brody Lee was here, and now look at you, you're a bunch of comedy jobbers. So, that's where I have him fitting in. But as far as tomorrow night, where he would fit in, who knows? Maybe at the end of the Danielson match. Wouldn't argue with seeing him facing Danielson again. That'd be a great in for him. Who knows? So again, it's not something that's going to absolutely piss on my Wheaties if he's not there tomorrow night. I would just absolutely love to see it. So yeah, that's Full Gear. That's tomorrow night. Pre-show starts at 7. Main show starts at 8. Probably going to be a good 4 hours, so just jump in and, get in on it, man. It's going to be great. If it's anywhere near as good as All Out, then I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Fuck, there was something I wanted to talk about, and I don't remember because I'm a dummy. How about those Ravens, though, huh? Yeah. Those amazing Ravens getting beat by the Dolphins last night was pretty good way to start the weekend. Pretty good way to start the weekend. Anytime I get to see the Ravens lose, especially to a team that has 2 wins in the season. Gonna get some barbecue tonight. Gonna do some Christmas decorating. Yes, I am one of those guys. Deal with it. So yeah, I'm excited for the show. Oh, remember, next Friday night, Ghostbusters. I think my wife and I are going to see it on next Thursday. So I'm not gonna be around for the podcast, by the way, guys. Sorry. But yeah, Ghostbusters Afterlife comes out next week, and I'm pretty geeked out for it. There's something special about this one. I can feel it. I can feel it coming. I'm very excited for it. So yeah, get you some good football this weekend. Some great matchups. I know Penn State's playing Michigan, so go Penn State. No one won't hear me say that often. My Buckeyes are hoping to avoid a loss with the spoiler makers Purdue. They've already beaten a couple of great teams this year, so I hope that the Buckeyes aren't going to be one of them. Fingers crossed. But they're, right now the Buckeyes are sitting pretty, number 4 in the college football playoff rankings. I know Cincinnati's kind of butthurt about that, and they have a right to be, man. Cincinnati hasn't lost. Buckeyes lost to Oregon. So, if I were Cincinnati, I'd be pissed too. They have every right to be in the bowl. I almost call it the bowl championship, the BCS. No, the college football playoff. College football invitational is really what it is. Until we get 8 or 10 teams in this thing, 12. I don't think we're gonna get the answers that we want. I'd love to see Cincinnati face a team like Oklahoma or Oregon or Ohio State and see how they match up. I'd love to see an honest-to-God tournament that begins in December and see in January who the last man standing is. And there's money to be made. You call them bowl games. Get sponsors and they're leaving lots of money on the table right now. So, yeah, man, go Buckeyes, finish strong. After the spoiler makers, we got Michigan State, and then finally that team up north. So, it's gonna be a great season for them. Steelers. Speaking of football, Steelers are sitting at 5-3 right now, on top of the division. Temper your expectations is all I'm going to say. I know people are sitting there going, oh, well, they're leading the division, mid-November. Yeah, but, they barely beat the Seahawks without Russell Wilson. They barely beat Chicago with a rookie quarterback, and I love Justin Fields, and I think that he's really improving. They beat Cleveland without Kareem Hunt on a day where, I don't remember the Cleveland's head coach's name now, where he decided not to run the ball at all. Temper your expectations, Steeler fans, because I don't think this is a Super Bowl team. This is probably barely a playoff team. And coming down the stretch, they have a vicious... I think 7 of their last 8 games, or 7 of the last 9 games or 6, I guess, are all division, including 2 matchups with the Ravens to end the season. I think they're at Baltimore to end the season. So temper your expectations, Steeler fans. I want to see one more. I want to see this season pan out for Ben. He deserves to go out at least as a playoff man. I think there's going to be lots of questions to be answered after this season. I think that there's going to be a lot of turmoil. But welcome to being a football fan. That's what happens unless you're a marquee destination like Tampa Bay or Los Angeles or fucking Arizona? The Cardinals? Yeah, they're putting together quite the crew. So I mean, unless you're one of these major market teams who can bring in great talent via free agency and trades and things, this is the life of a football fan, wondering whether or not you're good enough to make the playoffs and hoping you can sneak past a couple really good teams. So, Steelers sitting at 5-3, not the worst thing in the world, not the best thing in the world. We'll see. I could be wrong. They could gel, really come together, and have an amazing run here and go to the Super Bowl. But I really don't feel like that's the case. Same with Ohio State, really. When the season started, I was very honest with myself. I said, okay, Ohio State's rebuilding after losing Justin Fields, and a lot of their defensive players. Steelers are rebuilding after losing their offensive line. I realize this probably wasn't going to be a championship season for both. I'm very happy and thankful to have the Buckeyes in college football playoff contention right now, and I'm happy to have the Steelers in contention for a wild card and maybe even the division title. But at the end of the day, I realize that is Ohio State better than Georgia? No. Are they better than Alabama? Probably not. Are the Steelers better than Buffalo? I know they beat them, but no, they're not. Are the Steelers better than the Chiefs? No. Are the Steelers better than Tampa Bay? No chance. The Rams? Like Arizona? No. So, like, I get it. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm going to be emotionally invested in it, but, you know, it is what it is at this point. So, I think I covered it all. I've talked about AEW, I've talked about WWE releases, I've talked about potential Bray Wyatt showing up, Wyndham Rotunda showing up tomorrow. I've talked about some football. I've talked about Ghostbusters. What do you want? What more do you want from me? I'm a one-man band this week, taking the podcast on my back, but that's okay. Beef's got your back. So yeah, if you want to join in to the Cruiserweight Open, get those picks in, reply to the post by tomorrow at Saturday, by noon, Saturday the 13th at noon, because Full Gear is tomorrow night at 7. You can also email us at pittsburghpiledriverpodcast@gmail.com, or just text us the picks via our messenger. I'll reply there as well. So get those picks in, join the fray. Maybe we'll be sending you a title. Hope you guys continue to listen, continue to watch. Thank you so much for sticking around. For my boys over at the Pittsburgh Piledriver Podcast, that would be Tiger Bomb Tom, the Madman, Ransom, and Poot the Bard, Baby. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for being our fans. And thanks for enjoying what we do. We enjoy doing it for you. This is Beef the Legend, signing off. Enjoy Full Gear, boys and girls.